Don't come for Christmas, my mom said. We'll pretend we don't know you. They didn't expect what I'd do next. Stick with me while I share my story. And if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. My phone lit up with my mom's name, and for a moment I thought she was calling to ask what dessert I'd bring for Christmas dinner. Instead, I heard her voice, cold, sharp, and so unlike her usual warm tone. "You're not coming home this year," she said. I blinked, unsure if I heard her right. "What do you mean? I already booked my flight." "I mean," she replied slowly, "it's for everyone's good if you stay away. We'll pretend we don't know you." Her words hit me like a slap. Why? Did I do something? "You've caused enough trouble, Hannah. I don't want to talk about it." I stood in my tiny apartment kitchen, gripping the phone so hard my hand ached. My mom had never spoken to me like this before. We'd always had our arguments. Every family does, but nothing that could explain being banned from Christmas. "What trouble? What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice shaking. She sighed, the kind of sigh that sounded like she was already done with me. "I think you know. Don't make this harder." "No, Mom, I really don't." But the line went dead. I just stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, staring at the wall. My heart was racing, but I also felt hollow inside, like someone had scooped me out and left only the shell. The first thing I did was call my dad. He always calmed her down when she got dramatic. But when his voice came on the line, it wasn't warm. It was stiff, almost rehearsed. "Dad, Mom just told me I'm not welcome for Christmas." "What's going on?" Silence. "Dad, I can't talk about it, Hannah," he said finally. "It's better if you just listen to your mother this time." My chest tightened. "So you're not even going to tell me why?" "I'm sorry." Then he hung up. The rejection hit harder than I could have imagined. My family had always been my anchor. Every holiday, every birthday, we were together. I'd never missed a Christmas in my entire life. And now, suddenly, I was being treated like a stranger, no explanation given. I tried to think back. Had I said something to offend them? Forgotten an important event? The last time I saw them was at Thanksgiving, just a few weeks ago. We laughed, ate too much pie, and my mom even hugged me goodbye at the door. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Now, I was being shut out completely. I sat down on the couch, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders. But it didn't stop the chill in my chest. This wasn't just about missing one holiday. This was about being cut off from the people who were supposed to love me no matter what. Confused turned into hurt. Hurt twisted into something sharper. If they thought they could push me away without telling me why, they were wrong. I wasn't going to just accept it. I was going to find out exactly why my family suddenly wanted nothing to do with me. And when I did, they were going to regret the day they told me not to come home for Christmas. I sat staring at my phone for a long time before finally calling my younger brother, Evan. He'd always been the one who couldn't keep a secret for long. If anyone was going to tell me the truth, it would be him. He picked up after the third ring. "Hey, Hannah," he said, sounding like his mouth was full. "Evan, what's going on?" "Mom and Dad won't tell me why I can't come for Christmas." There was a pause, and then the sound of him clearing his throat. "I don't know if I should be talking about this." "Please," I said, my voice low. "You have to tell me something. I'm completely in the dark here." He was quiet for so long that I thought the call had dropped. Then he said, "It's better if you don't come this year." That was it. No explanation. Just the same cold words my mom had thrown at me. What does that even mean? I pressed. "Better for who?" "You, Mom." "Dad." I heard him sigh, and then there was a faint voice in the background. Deep, smooth, familiar in a way that made my stomach twist. "Evan, who is that?" I asked sharply. "No one." But it was too late. I knew that voice. Colin Blake. The man I'd once been engaged to. The man I caught cheating on me 2 years ago. The man who swore he'd never set foot near my family again. Only now, he was clearly at my parents' house. I didn't even hear the rest of what Evan was saying. My mind was already racing. Why was Colin there? Why was he comfortable enough to be speaking in the background while Evan talked to me? I forced my voice to stay calm. "Is Colin at the house right now?" Evan hesitated, and that told me everything I needed to know. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think," I said quietly. The call ended soon after. I don't even remember who hung up first. I sat there gripping my phone, staring at nothing. My chest felt heavy, my heart pounding in a slow, angry rhythm. It wasn't just that Colin was there. It was that my family hadn't told me. That they'd let him into their home, their lives, after everything he'd done. I started to connect the pieces. The cold tone from my mom. My dad's refusal to talk. Evan's awkward dodging. Colin wasn't just visiting. He was a part of their lives now, somehow. The thought made me feel sick. 2 years ago, when I ended things with him, I thought my family would stand by me. I thought they'd be disgusted by what he'd done. Instead, it seemed they'd chosen him over me. The hurt was sharp, but underneath it, something else started to grow. A heat. A tightness. If they wanted Colin in their lives, fine. But I was going to find out why, and I wasn't going to like the answer. The next day, I told myself I just needed to drop something off, and that was the excuse anyway. The truth was, I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd heard on the phone. I grabbed an old coat I'd left at my parents' house months ago and drove over. It was enough of a reason to be there without looking suspicious, if anyone asked. It was late afternoon, the kind of winter day where the air bites your face and the sky looks heavy with snow. I parked a little down the street, so my car wouldn't be obvious in the driveway. My parents' house looked the same as always, warm light spilling from the windows, the smell of wood smoke drifting in the cold air. I walked up slowly, coat draped over my arm, telling myself I was just going to ring the bell, hand it over, and go. But when I got close, I saw movement through the dining room window. And then I saw him, Colin, sitting in my father's chair at the dinner table like he belonged there. His hair was shorter than I remembered, but that easy, smug smile was the same. My mom sat next to him, her hand resting in his. Not just a quick touch. Her fingers were curled around his, holding on. I froze, my breath clouding in front of me. My dad was across from them, laughing at something Colin said. His face lit up like he was talking to an old friend. There was no tension, no awkwardness, just comfort, like they'd been doing this for a long time. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. Then my mom reached under the table and pulled out a small box wrapped in shiny red paper. She slid it across to Colin. He smiled and accepted it like this was some private little tradition between them. He didn't even hesitate to open it right there. I couldn't see what was inside, but I saw the way my parents' faces softened as he looked at it. It was the kind of expression I used to get from them on Christmas morning. That warmth, that closeness, it wasn't mine anymore. My stomach turned. The coat in my hands suddenly felt heavy. I stepped back slowly, careful not to make a sound. I didn't knock. I didn't even try. If I went inside, I didn't trust myself not to explode. I walked back to my car, my hands trembling so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. My chest felt tight, like all the air had been sucked out. Colin wasn't just in my parents' life. He was part of it now. More than part of it. He was welcome, accepted, maybe even loved. And me? I wasn't even allowed through the door. I didn't go home that night. I just drove aimlessly until I ended up outside Mara's apartment. She opened the door before I even knocked twice, her face full of concern. "What happened?" she asked, pulling me inside. I sat on her couch and tried to explain, but the words felt heavy. "He's there, Mara. Colin. At my parents' house. Sitting at their table like nothing ever happened." Her eyes narrowed. "You're kidding. After what he did?" I shook my head. I saw it with my own eyes. Mara let out a sharp breath. "Then you need to walk away. From all of them. They made their choice, and it's not you." "I can't," I said. "Not until I know why. There has to be more to it than just this." She gave me a look, the kind that says she's trying to protect me from myself, but she didn't push. Instead, she poured me tea and sat beside me while I stared into the steam. The next day, I got my first clue. I ran into Mrs. Callahan, the neighbor who'd lived next to my parents for as long as I could remember. She stopped me in the grocery store, tilting her head. "Hannah, dear, I'm so sorry about everything," she said. My stomach sank. "What do you mean?" Her voice dropped. "Colin told us you left him when he was at his lowest. Said you turned your back when he needed you most. I can't imagine how hard things must have been for you both." For a second, I couldn't even speak. "He said that." She nodded, looking genuinely sad. "It's what your parents said too. That they understood why he's still hurting." I stood there, frozen in the middle of the produce aisle. He had flipped the story completely. In his version, I wasn't the one who'd been betrayed. I was the betrayer. The worst part wasn't just that he told people those lies. It was that my family had repeated them. They didn't even call me to hear my side. They took his word, like it was the only one that mattered. I walked out of the store without buying a single thing, the air outside colder than before. The betrayal wasn't just from him, it was from them. And that cut deeper than anything Colin had ever done. I spent the night lying awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying Mrs. Callahan's words over and over. The anger sat in my chest like a stone, heavy and sharp. They were all sitting around, listening to Colin's lies, while I was painted as the villain. By morning, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to sit in my apartment on Christmas Day pretending I didn't care. If they didn't want me there, fine. But I was still going. And when I did, I'd make sure every single person at that table knew the truth. I started by calling Evan. I didn't want to spook him, so I kept my voice casual. "Hey, just wondering what you're doing for Christmas this year." There was a pause before he said, "Same as always. Dinner at Mom and Dad's." I forced a smile into my voice. "Oh, so the whole family will be there?" "Yeah, everyone," he said, and I could hear the hesitation. I pushed a little further. "Colin too." He cleared his throat. "Yeah, I guess so." That was all I needed. After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table with a notebook and started listing everything I could use against Colin, things that would rip the mask right off his face in front of my family. I wasn't just going to tell them what he did. I was going to show them, and I wanted there to be no way they could deny it. First, I remembered the old phone I'd shoved in a drawer, the one I had before we broke up. It still had the messages and photos from the day I found out about him and the other woman. I charged it up and scrolled through them, my stomach twisting but my determination growing stronger. The proof was right there, dates, times, even his pathetic excuses. Then I thought about the money. I knew my dad had lent Colin a large sum not long before the breakup. I also knew Colin never paid it back. If I could get a copy of the loan agreement or even a bank transfer record, that would be another nail in his coffin. I searched through my files until I found a scan of the paperwork. My dad had emailed it to me once, asking if I thought it was fair. Now, it was going to be very useful, but I didn't just want to prove Colin was a liar. I wanted them to see what choosing him over me really meant. That meant I needed someone else's voice, someone they couldn't ignore. That's when I thought of Lauren, the woman he'd been seeing behind my back. If she was willing to confirm what happened, it would end any argument before it could even start. I tracked her down through an old mutual acquaintance and sent her a short, polite message. I told her I wasn't looking for trouble, only the truth. She surprised me by agreeing to meet. By the time we sat down in a little coffee shop 2 days before Christmas, I already knew she'd say yes. She looked nervous but relieved to get it off her chest. She told me exactly when it started, and it matched the dates in my messages. Then she signed a short statement I'd written out for her. I walked out of that cafe with my heart pounding, not from nerves this time, but from the certainty that I was ready. On Christmas Day, I wasn't going to be the forgotten daughter, the black sheep, the liar they whispered about. I was going to walk into that house uninvited, and when I left, Colin's place at their table would be gone forever. I pulled the old phone from the back of my desk drawer. The battery was dead, but once I plugged it in, the screen lit up, showing the same background I'd had years ago. My hands shook a little as I opened the messages. There they were, every text, every photo from the day I found out the truth. Colin's sweet words to me sitting right next to his late-night messages to someone else. Dates, times, and even pictures that proved it wasn't just a harmless friendship. He'd been with her while we were still together, long before the breakup. Her name was in a few of the messages. Lauren Price. I remembered how my stomach dropped when I first saw it. Now, seeing it again only made me more determined. I spent hours going through everything, organizing it so there would be no confusion. Then I decided I needed more than just my word and some screenshots. I needed someone else who could confirm it all. Finding Lauren wasn't hard. A quick check through old contacts led me to someone who still spoke to her. I sent a short message, explaining I wasn't looking to start trouble, just to clear my name. To my surprise, she agreed to meet. We sat in a quiet corner of a small cafe. She looked different now, calmer, older somehow. "I'm married now," she said quickly, almost like she needed me to know it wasn't about Colin anymore. "I just need the truth," I told her. She sighed and nodded. "It started months before you two broke up. I didn't know he was still with you at first. When I found out, I told him to end it, but he didn't." Her words lined up perfectly with the dates in my messages. She even agreed to sign a short statement saying so. I slid the paper into my bag, feeling a little lighter. But there was still one more piece I needed. I remembered the money. My dad had lent Colin a large sum, and Colin had promised to pay it back within a year. That never happened. I dug through my old email and found exactly what I was looking for, a scanned copy of the agreement with Colin's signature at the bottom. It was perfect. Proof of his lies, proof of his cheating, and proof he'd taken advantage of my family financially. By the time I closed my laptop, everything was neatly organized in a folder. Looking at it all together, I knew there would be no talking his way out of it. This wasn't just ammunition, it was the whole case against him. And soon, I'd be delivering it right into my parents' living room. It was just getting dark when I pulled up outside my parents' house. The windows glowed, and I could see the faint shapes of people moving inside. I held the tin of cookies in both hands, forcing my face into the friendliest smile I could manage. When I rang the bell, footsteps came quickly to the door. My mom opened it, and for a second she didn't say anything. Her eyes went wide, and her hand tightened on the edge of the door. "Hannah," she said slowly, like she wasn't sure if I was real. "Hi, Mom," I said brightly, holding out the cookies. "I thought I'd surprise you." Behind her, voices from the dining room carried toward us. One of them was Colin's. He appeared in the hallway, wearing that same confident smile I'd seen 100 times before. He leaned against the doorframe like this was his home now. "Well," he said, "look who decided to show up." I stepped inside before my mom could stop me. I didn't want to miss Christmas Eve. My dad came out from the kitchen, his expression caught between shock and discomfort. Evan was standing behind him, looking at me with a mix of worry and relief. No one said I had to leave, so I walked right into the dining room. The table was set with my mom's good dishes, the kind she only used for holidays. A roast sat in the center, surrounded by bowls of vegetables and bread. I took a seat at the far end, placing the cookies in the middle like an offering. Colin sat across from me, his eyes fixed on mine. He didn't look nervous. In fact, he looked amused, like he thought I was about to embarrass myself. Mom took the seat next to him, and my dad settled across from her. Evan stayed quiet, sitting beside me. The sound of utensils clinking on plates filled the silence. No one asked me how I'd been. No one offered me food. I stayed calm. I smiled when someone glanced my way. I nodded at whatever was said, though I barely listened. Every part of me wanted to stand up and shout, but I knew this wasn't the time. I was here for one reason, and it wasn't to have a pleasant meal. Colin tried to make small talk with my dad, telling some story about work. My dad laughed a little too loudly, like he was trying to make things seem normal. My mom kept glancing at me, her lips pressed tight. I sat back in my chair, hands folded in my lap, feeling the weight of everything I had in my bag. Proof, words, truth. Let them think I was just sitting here quietly. Let Colin keep that smug look on his face. The right moment was coming, and when it did, none of them would be able to pretend anymore. Dinner went on slowly, every clink of silverware louder than it needed to be. Most of the talking came from Colin. He told little stories about people I didn't know, sprinkling in jokes he thought were clever. Then, almost like he couldn't help himself, he started slipping in comments about me. "You remember how Hannah used to get?" he said with a chuckle, looking at my parents. One little thing would set her off and boom, stormy skies for days. I kept my eyes on my plate, cutting my food into small pieces I had no intention of eating. "Or that time," he continued, "when she just left in the middle of dinner at my place because she thought I was late on purpose. Real unstable stuff." My mom gave him a polite smile, like she didn't want to encourage him, but also wasn't going to stop him. My dad just kept eating, not meeting my eyes. I didn't take the bait. I didn't defend myself. I just waited. When he finally leaned back in his chair, clearly pleased with himself, I set my fork down. "Actually," I said in a calm voice, "I think it's time we clear a few things up." Colin raised an eyebrow. "Oh!" I reached into my bag and pulled out a small folder. Without a word, I slid the first set of papers across the table, printed screenshots from my old phone. Photos. Messages. The ones showing him with Lauren while we were still together. The room went quiet. My dad stopped chewing. My mom's eyes darted to the pictures, then back to me. "That's not," Colin started. I placed the next paper on the table. Lauren's signed statement, her neat handwriting spelling out exactly when their relationship began. Colin's mouth opened, then closed again. "And one more thing," I said, sliding the last sheet toward my dad. "The loan agreement. The one you signed with Colin. You asked for the money back, right? Because according to this, it was due a long time ago." My dad took the paper in his hands, reading it twice before looking up. His face was pale, his jaw tight. Colin laughed nervously. "This is being blown way out of proportion." "No," I said evenly. "This is just the truth." The silence that followed was thick, almost heavy. My father's eyes stayed locked on Colin. My mom's face had gone completely pale, her hands gripping the edge of the table. "I can explain," Colin tried again. But no one was listening to him anymore. The smugness in his expression was gone. He shifted in his chair, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. For the first time that night, I felt the tension in my shoulders ease. I didn't need to raise my voice or shout. The truth was louder than anything I could have said. No one touched their food after that. My mother was the first to speak after what felt like forever. She pushed her chair back a little and looked straight at me. Her voice was tight. "Do you realize what you've just done? You've ruined Christmas, Hannah." I kept my tone even. "No, Mom. Christmas was ruined the moment you decided to believe a liar over your own daughter." Her eyes narrowed, and for a second, I thought she might yell. Instead, she shook her head like she couldn't believe I'd said it. "You could have handled this privately." "Privately?" I asked. "You wouldn't answer my calls. You wouldn't tell me why I wasn't welcome here. You gave me no choice." The air in the room felt sharp, every movement loud. Colin let out a scoff and leaned back in his chair. "See? This is exactly the kind of behavior I've been talking about." Before I could reply, Evan's voice cut through the tension. "No, Colin. You've been talking about a lot of things, but not the truth. I've always known something was off with you." Colin turned to him, clearly not expecting it. "Excuse me? You've been working your way into this family ever since Hannah left you," Evan said, his voice steady. "I didn't have proof, but I could see it. The little digs about her, the way you got Mom and Dad to trust you. It's manipulation." My dad stayed silent, still holding the loan agreement in his hands, his expression unreadable. Colin's face turned red. "I don't have to sit here and listen to this." He stood so quickly his chair scraped hard against the floor. "You're all ungrateful. I've been nothing but." "Get out," my father said quietly, without looking up. Colin froze for half a second, then grabbed his coat from the back of his chair. The sound of the front door slamming echoed through the house. No one moved after that. My mom stared down at her plate, not eating, her lips pressed into a thin line. Evan kept his gaze on the table. My dad didn't say another word, just set the papers aside and started clearing dishes without being asked. The smell of food still hung in the air, but no one touched it. The candles on the table burned lower, their light flickering over faces that had gone. The room felt colder somehow, even with the heat on. Every sound, the clink of a fork, the scrape of a plate, seemed too loud. We sat there, together but completely apart, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on all of us. No one said Merry Christmas. I stood from the table without saying a word. No one tried to stop me. I walked to the front door, picked up my coat, and stepped outside. The cold air hit me, but it felt better than staying in that room. I didn't look back. I didn't say goodbye. The drive home was quiet. No music, no phone calls, just the hum of the engine and the steady beat of my thoughts. I had come for answers, and I'd gotten them, just not the kind that fixed anything. Several days passed before I heard from anyone. A plain envelope came in the mail, my father's handwriting on the front. Inside was a short letter. He said he was sorry for believing Colin without asking for my side. He said he should have trusted me, and that he hoped, in time, things could be better between us. I read it twice, holding on to the small comfort it offered. But I also knew it didn't change everything. My mother hadn't written. She hadn't called. Maybe she never would. That wound felt too deep to heal with a few words. I thought about all the years I had worked so hard to make them proud, to keep the family close, to be the daughter they could depend on. And for what? The moment someone else came along with a story they liked better, I was out. So I decided I was done chasing their approval. When New Year's Eve came, I stayed home. I invited Mara and a few close friends over. We cooked together, laughing in the kitchen as the smell of roasting vegetables filled the air. There was no tension, no walking on eggshells, just easy company. At midnight, we clinked our glasses and wished each other a good year ahead. I looked around the room, at the people who had chosen to be here, not out of obligation, but because they wanted to be. It wasn't the family I was born into, but it was the one I could trust. And that was enough. What's your take on Hannah's decision? Was she right to walk away for good, or should she have given her family another chance? Drop your opinion in the comments. I'd love to hear it. If you like hearing stories like this, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next one.